And the other big thing this morning I want to talk to you, and really it's sort of another holy topic, I guess, is this Three Waters. I don't see Three Waters, can I tell you, as a political program, but sort of more an act of faith. It's one of those policies that come out of central government at the end of the day that, well, there's no proof that it will work, but they like the idea, so they've decided to carry on with it. As a consequence, a large number of local government officials, bodies, have got very uneasy and upset, unsurprisingly, because all of their water assets, so that their ratepayers have paid for, well, I guess, not simply decades, but generations, are being stolen or taken from them, appropriated to 4 central agencies with a 50-50 governance structure of Māori and corporate bods, and 3 of those councils, representing, I suspect, more than just 3 in number, but certainly finding it easier to get together, Waimakariri, Whangarei and Timaru, have appeared in the High Court challenging the government's right to essentially steal their assets and ratepayer property. I'm joined on the line by one of those leading the charge, Nigel Bowen, the Mayor of Timaru. Good morning to you, Nigel.
Good morning, Michael.
That's right, isn't it? You're essentially alleging in front of the High Court property theft.
Yeah, very much so. It's around property rights and accountability back through democracy. And I think you hit the nail on the head. It's sort of political ideology that centralisation is best. And I don't think, perhaps this government don't know anything better. If you look at the reform that's happening across the country, from Polytech to health to, Three Waters reform, it's all big is better, but there's no proof in the pudding that that's the case.
No, that's the interesting, isn't it? I mean, they didn't decide to trial it somewhere. They just said, right, we're going to do it.
Yeah, very much so. And look, we have firm beliefs that there's other models, and we've done a lot of work to present back to government that there's models that will work, that protect, property rights that are owned, by councils, but on behalf of the community, and also that democratic accountability. The key thing to this is if I get it wrong, you can vote me out. But, we can't vote these big water entities out there going to have our assets forever and a day.
Before I get into the nitty-gritty detail of the court case, I guess I'm asking another question to you. And you're a smart man. You'll have worked it out too. It's, 16 months to the next general election. The National Party have said, and I think ACT have said as well, that they'll abolish Three Waters. Is there a little hope in the back of you, Nigel, thinking, this might not go ahead if there's a change of government?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a couple of processes before that. There's select committee process, and we live in hope that we can still influence that. And there's a lot of, there again, if you look at the polls, even amongst Labor supporters, 70% are against Three Waters model as it sits. So there's a lot of time, and then you go through to the election. To your point, a fair chance that it will be repealed, or it's 50-50 on the balance of power where it lands. Yeah. And so to have something, because we're not against reform, but we want a model that's going to work, and for it to work into the future, it needs to have bipartisan support, and this model doesn't have it.
I guess the other thing that surprised me was there were 2 things that in the background to this. The first was the position of Local Government New Zealand, your representative group of councils throughout New Zealand. They sort of just accepted it from day one, I think without even consulting you. Did they consult you?
No, they didn't, and they've come out lately probably more in defence of their position, and that's why we removed ourselves from Local Government New Zealand. We're still the only council to do so, but we took a principled stance that no, you can't sign a heads of agreement saying that we won't we won't speak up against the government's reform model, and we thought that was just disgusting behaviour really, and that's why we left, and we're comfortable where we are. But you're right, unfortunately, they're the body that should be advocating for us. It's interesting in the court case, they're being used and referenced all the time as a voice for local government. But as you're aware, through your connections, Local Government New Zealand doesn't legally represent anyone. It's an advocacy body on behalf of councils. It's no different than a hospitality association or a master builders. You're wanting to get better outcomes for your sector, but they legally don't represent us. So then to see that evidence coming through in the court case, I think local government New Zealand have really let us down.
Mate, they're a joke. I took Wanganui out of local government New Zealand because I just couldn't see anything that they gave us. And I guess, like Nigel, you strike me as a bit like me in some ways. If you've got a problem in Timaru, you'll go to Wellington directly and talk to that particular minister or that particular official to get it solved. You won't ask local government New Zealand to solve it for you.
No, yeah, exactly. Look, and that's our role. We're advocating on behalf of our communities. That's what we swear an oath to do, and so we need to do that. So, look, not to say that, for a smaller, rural council, it's harder, and I understand that, some of them probably get pretty good support through LGNZ. So, look, ideally, LGNZ, for me, if they advocated for all of our views, then we wouldn't have an issue. But it feels like they've chosen a side on this particular reform.
Oh, they have. They've sold you out. But I guess that's what, mate, that's what happens when you put your major organisation in Wellington and all they're doing. You've got to remember the people who work for local government New Zealand too. I've known a couple of them. They're useless. I mean, seriously. They wouldn't be able to get jobs in the private sector. But there they are working for local government New Zealand. It's sort of like, oh my God, it's a place for, well, it's a refuge for useless people. Anyhow, that's just by and by. It's one of those sort of days today. I think the really interesting part of this, though, is the concept of property rights. So what you're doing is saying, well, listen, if they can steal ratepayer assets that they haven't paid for, what next? Have I got that right?
Yeah, definitely, and that's the key thing, and I think we should all be concerned. And if you look, just look to councils, not looking at property, that's privately owned, but the Three Waters does affect privately owned property because you've got rural schemes which have, been built up over years by rural communities, and, granddad, got out and dug the trench and put the pipe in and all those sort of things. So there's that element. But also, councils are a big owner of property. We own all those community assets that it's really easy to look at and see the, tangible effect of, pools and parks and rec and all those sort of things. But we own commercial assets too. So, Timaru, we own a port, assets, we own commercial property, we own lots of other things. So, is amalgamation of ports into the future, a reality? I don't know, but, it feels like this could set a precedent for other things to come. So it's quite dangerous territory, I believe.
Now, you wouldn't have gone to the High Court unless, I assume, you thought you might win. Is that right?
Totally. Look, we are cautiously optimistic and understanding that, councils are a creature of statute and we can, be undone tomorrow, by the power of the pen, if you like. But that's no different than any other government body. The same would apply. So, we certainly went in thinking, hey, we've got a 50-50 chance. Bearing in mind, we're committing ratepayer money to this, and this is while we're working with other councils to spread some costs. But the balance to that is also that collectively these three councils have $2 billion worth of water assets. So we think it was pretty important that it was heard at the High Court.
So what are you looking for? What's the judgment that you want the High Court to deliver?
Yeah, look, I mean, the key one is what you spoke to, so it's on property rights. And so it's just confirmation that, hey, if property should be expropriated in any shape or form, so taking property without consent, then it should be, fairly and properly be compensated. So, for Timaru, we've got about $440 million worth of assets. What does that look like as compensation? So that's one of the key things. And then the other element is, and very key and at the heart of, most New Zealanders, I would expect, is that accountability through democracy. We want seeking a judgment on that as well.
Well, the government's always had power through the Public Works Act to appropriate property if it believes it's in the national interest. But I guess now I'm trying to remember the law. I think you're meant to be compensated at market rates. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe that's the case. So, there is, and we're citing lots of precedents where this has occurred already. and so why these three water assets should be any different. And, government are trying to be quite clever around it and saying, it's still community ownership because we've got a shareholding in it.
Bollocks,
Yeah, that's the best way to frame it.
Listen, Nigel, can I just say personally to you from me, A, the best of luck to you. B, good on you for your guts. And C, you'll have no trouble getting re-elected as the Mayor of Timaru, I know that. Your council, I assume, is 100% behind you on this?
Yeah, definitely. Unanimous in that. And also the other two
good.
councils are unanimous as well. And that's why it was easy to work with just three.
Yeah.
Some would say, hey, look, why haven't you got more? Some councils are split, and also it's just more flexible and nimble, and we can be a little bit more agile on the whole thing.
No, good on you. And listen, I will follow the case with interest. Thank you for talking to me, Nigel, and I look forward to catching up with you again in the future. Thank you. So that's Nigel who's the Mayor of Timaru. It's very interesting. There are some councils, one just that I live in, the Central Otago District Council, for example, the mayor's refused to actually bring it to a vote.